Hi everyone. Today on Artefacto, we are thrilled to present a watercolor masterclass with Chan Dissanayake, an artist whose work inspires millions. Let's dive in.
Just make sure that these things don't run down, otherwise. So obviously it'll get much lighter than what you're putting on right now, but this is just wetting the paper, really, nothing much. Just carry that down, and we don't need to worry about any highlights or anything like that. Very light, and as we get to here, we just need to introduce the ground, which is sort of a dull, sort of green sort of color there, and it does get a warmer. Because the paper is wet, you really have to go with a bit more pigment than what you're seeing, because it'll dry light. So add that. That's okay, and we can just carry that over to this side as well. Just collect these. So slowly build up tone. We don't really care too much on this side. And the lightest, warmest part is actually near below the house. So I'm just using raw sienna and just a bit of crimson. Just make it a bit warmer. Very light, very light. Just a hint. Mix that together a bit. There are some scattered objects, so I'll just sort of skim the paper just to leave a bit of white space where we need to, but they could be sheep. It doesn't matter what they are, really. This is very light. Don't get carried away with any detail. So when this is dry, I'm going to put another layer. Okay. So anything unnecessary, anything not adding, just get rid of it. We don't need it. There is this.
I hope you're enjoying this watercolor lesson. On our channel, we always share watercolor lessons from the world's top artists. And today, we have something special for you. Follow the link in the video description and sign up for a free online masterclass with another global watercolor star.
A little bit of an embankment. I think there's a few sort of bare sort of surface showing through here, and I might just sort of start that. This area here, and then I'm just going to run a bit of that coolness towards the bottom, and I'm seeing that because I want my eye to be here. Can just let this bead run a bit as well, and I need to get into here a bit because it's a little bit warmer through there, but I waited till it was a little bit dry before putting that. And just introduce that. Oops, that's okay. As long as you keep it a bit muted, it'll be okay. It's just an undertone, really not anything significant at this stage. Maybe a bit of warmth coming through, but so I think I'm going to stop here, and that should do for the time being. What we need to do here is get this misty sort of soft background, and as it sort of comes around, you see more definition, and tonally it's getting darker, and on the grassy areas it's getting warmer as well. So it also gets a bit greener as it comes forward. It's very dull grey sort of colours in the distance. So, and when we wet this part, what we'll do is we'll wet it, so we'll cut around a few rooftops to suggest a few barns or houses in the distance. Let's just start wetting the top bit. And just around there, I think we can probably leave a little bit of... This is time to cut around anything as well. Different so versions of grey, cooler to warmer. So this is just sort of beginning to dry, and I'll just define a few sort of trees here. And I'll just suggest a building or two here, and get a bit warmer, and let it run. It's okay. And define the contour of the shapes too. With these, we'll definitely go back onto this. It's too wet, but I can work on these. And it gets thicker now. It's same mixtures but thicker. Still has blue bias, more blue than more yellow. So I think I like to frame something here. Still getting softer edges. Even in this sort of area. Cutting through into here. Probably lost that telegraph pole, that's alright. But I need to move on to this mass here. This is really working wet into wet and right, but it's got a bit of a sort of a blueness towards the bottom of those as well, and darkness, and that's what I'm trying to get. But I have to move quickly because I don't want to leave this edge as is. Frame that a bit. Nice bit of a chimney or something there. And avoid any sort of symmetrical sort of shapes. So I'm sort of cutting around just to create a few broken edges. A few darks within there, just especially towards the bottom parts of it. So let's get a nice soupy mix, and that should do, I think. And there's no need to leave any whites or anything like that. Just get that in. There is a window, but really no need to leave any. Probably the underside there as well can receive that. And this area here can receive a bit of blue. Just wait until this is a little bit dry. I'll just scratch a few trees and twigs. And that's also pointing towards the subject a bit, just directional sort of marks. All right, so I'm just going to take the tape off. Okay, so this is the finished painting of lesson 2, which is all about ambient light or indirect light. So we discussed how the light is very weak, so there's no strong contrast. The tones are very soft and they are very closely related. As it comes forward, you can see how it's sort of gradually getting warmer and darker, and more harder edges in that sort of area. Whereas in the background, it's diffusing into that misty background. The colors are very muted, except they are getting a little bit warmer towards the foreground. And we talked about the planes. The lighter planes are generally the sky, and the horizontal, which is being the ground color, and even the rooftops. But the midtones, there's a bit of a slope here, and that's a diagonal. That's sort of in midtone, and the trees are the darkest tones because they are the verticals. So that's lesson number 2 on ambient light, and I'm looking forward to meeting you for lesson number 3, which is going to be on reflections and reflected light. So look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for watching. All right, so here I've got my painting. It's half finished, it's not fully finished, but what I'm going to do is actually put in a few more shadows onto the painting. And here you can see my palette, and then you can see the reference image at the same time. Just get my reference image up, and then I will. Okay, so maybe I might just go through my palette a little bit before I start. Let me just quickly go through the palette quickly. So this is my palette. This is my studio palette, and I have a large mixing area, which is very important. But I have my cool colors and my warm colors. And these some sort of darks and odd colors, they change, but this thing remains constant. But going through the colors, I've got a warm blue, which is ultramarine, and a cool blue, which is cerulean blue here, and this is cobalt blue. So ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, cerulean blue. And I use some other colors. This is called lavender blue. It's a very dull opaque color, great for mixing, dulling down things. And the other blue that I use is turquoise blue. I use that for my greens. As you can tell, I don't carry any greens. I mix them with my yellows, and turquoise blue or cobalt turquoise, whichever brand you take, is really good for mixing my greens. With the warm side, obviously my primary, this is my cadmium yellow. This is raw sienna, burnt sienna, cadmium red. This is alizarin crimson, and I use a color called quinacridone gold. It's a very bright, dominant orangey yellow kind of color. But so this is the cool red, which is alizarin crimson. Warm red is my cadmium red. I don't use that much. I use my crimsons quite a lot. Burnt sienna, I use that a lot, especially for mixing my darks. So burnt sienna with ultramarine blue will give you a really rich dark. Raw sienna is used for my underwashes. I use a lot of yellows for my underwashes, and that's a nice color. And obviously the cadmium yellow. I have these 3 wells because I use different brands, but the same color from different brands. I don't like to mix them together. But pretty much that's my palette. I just wanted to sort of show, so this is sort of a half-finished painting. It's not fully finished, but once we put the shadows in, it defines the surface of the snow. and it gives you a nice contour to the snow. So what we shouldn't do is draw a straight line with our shadows. If we do, what we're saying is this is a surface like concrete. You know, it's hardly the case with snow because you get little bumps and little gullies and valleys. So when we put the shadow, we actually have to define the contour of the snow. And that's very important. And that's the reason why we put the shadows in those angles. Now, in the photograph, you can see the light's coming from this area here, and the shadows will be going across, okay? And through the shadows, it'll actually come and join to our main subject, which is through there. So that's a connection to the painting as well through the shadows. But now the paper is dry. If I were to just put in the shadows, I'm going to get hard edges all the way through, which I don't want to do. I want to create some soft edges, you know, in the shadows. So on a white surface like this, the shadows are going to be at its bluest, right? But there's going to be some reflected light. So I usually sort of go with a sort of purpley blue rather than a cool blue. I go with a warm blue because of bounce light. And you can see some of the effects of bounce light in this case already. Some of the trees have yellow and orangey colors because it's bouncing, so it's intensely bouncing off the snow and it's lighting up some of the parts. But the photograph doesn't show that as much. I have exaggerated that to show that. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to paint the shadow. And obviously because of the sky, it's a direct light, there's going to be sky involved, so it's going to be more blue. So I get cobalt blue in this case, and then a bit of alizarin crimson. You can use anything in that range, permanent rose, magenta, anything in that family is fine. So what we want is just a little bit of a purpley. The intensity of the blue is being killed a little bit. I even just add a bit of burnt sienna just to kill off the brightness. Okay, so let's mix a lot because we need quite a lot. You can even add a bit of ultramarine blue if we want to, but let's mix a big puddle because otherwise we're going to run out. So that's that. And then I'll mix a darker puddle here. This one's going to be a little bit darker than the other parts. And it's not going to be as purpley as, because the base where the shadow begins, it's actually it's the strongest. And then it sort of feathers off. So let's start with this. Now, let me just tell you one thing with watercolor is with shadows and reflections, you just got to get it bang done in one go. You cannot just start fiddling and, you know, doing too many things. You just got to go for it. It's just how watercolor works. So we know that I can see a bit of shadow through there, and I can just put that through. And you can bring that over. So you can paint negatively and show these. And then it disappears. And what I'll do is I'm going to wet this bottom area with clean water. The reason is I don't want hard edges towards the bottom. I do want hard edges in this area, but not towards the bottom. So I just wetted a little bit. So when it hits this area, it'll be softer and it'll sort of merge softly. So let's get the bigger areas done. Sort of a milky kind of consistency. And we know that this goes this way. And this is an interesting one. We need the dark portion here. So have a few different brushes to affect this. So the darkest part, we can put some dark parts, but there's a dark part there. And then we know it sort of disappears. And then it sort of reappears coming through here. And all of a sudden, and as it enters towards the bottom, it becomes more purple because this area here is reflected light. And we can just sort of get that in. And this log is going to cast a shadow, but don't color in, and just show a bit of, sometimes they go over logs. And then I get a smaller brush to put in these little twigs and things. But this is actually designing. This is not trying to be true to what's there. I'm actually deciding where I want the shadows to be to make a better composition. And see, all of a sudden now you should see that very quickly this painting becomes alive. And there's shadows within shadows. And be careful not to overwork as well. But I do want to keep a nice clean area here to enter into the painting. And sometimes on trees, on tree trunks, we do get some cast shadows dropping in here as well. So very quickly, so that's just a quick demo on shadows on snow. Any questions? Anything? Does anyone have any thoughts to it? Then that's pretty much it. That's just a quick demo. It's not completely finished, but at least it's given you the idea now. It's actually snow. And, you know, these interesting shadows shows that there is actually a little bit of contour on the snow.